Feathers from the hay mattress clung to Fiona Blackwell's auburn hair as she awoke to the sound of her father's drunken shouting outside their dilapidated homestead. The year was 1878, and the unforgiving New Mexico Territory had beaten down what little remained of her family since her mother's passing 3 winters ago. "I've got the deal of a lifetime," her father bellowed from the yard, his words slurring together like water in a creek bed. "A magnificent stallion for this useless girl." Fiona's heart stopped. At 22, she had endured her father's escalating drunken episodes, but this was different. Through the small window, she could see him gesturing wildly to a weathered man with rotting teeth who sat atop a bay horse that had seen better days. "Pa, what are you saying?" Fiona burst through the door, her worn cotton dress catching on the splintered frame. The morning sun beat down mercilessly on the dusty yard. Her father swayed, barely able to stand. "This here's Mr. Wilkes. He's offerin' his prize horse for you." He pointed to the tired animal. "A fair trade if you ask me. I need that horse more than I need you tacking up space and eatin' my food." "You can't be serious." Fiona's voice trembled. "I'm your daughter, not cattle to be traded." Mr. Wilkes grinned, revealing more gaps than teeth. "Come on, girl. I got a nice place north of here. Need a woman to keep it tidy." His eyes raked over her in a way that made her skin crawl. "I won't go." Fiona backed away, but her father grabbed her arm with surprising strength. "You will. I've already agreed." He shoved her toward Wilkes, who reached down to grab her. From across the yard came the sound of approaching hoofbeats. A tall figure on a chestnut stallion rode into view, silhouetted against the rising sun. "Morning, Blackwell." The deep voice belonged to Noah Carter, their nearest neighbor whose ranch bordered their struggling homestead. At 28, Noah had managed to build one of the most prosperous cattle operations in the territory through nothing but hard work and determination. Noah's eyes narrowed as he took in the scene. "Everything all right here?" "Mind your business, Carter," Fiona's father spat. "Just completing a transaction." Noah's gaze shifted to Fiona, noting her terrified expression and the bruising grip her father had on her arm. He'd known the Blackwells for years, watching as the once decent man descended into a whiskey-soaked shadow of himself after his wife's death. "What kind of transaction requires manhandling your daughter?" Noah dismounted, his hand resting casually near the revolver on his hip. Wilkes shifted uncomfortably. "Blackwell's selling me the girl for my horse here. Fair and square." Noah's face darkened. "A person isn't property to be sold, Blackwell. You know that. She's my daughter. I'll do as I please." Her father's words were defiant, but his eyes darted nervously to Noah's imposing figure. Noah stepped closer, his voice dropping to a dangerous rumble. "Let her go, now." For a tense moment, no one moved. Then Fiona's father released her arm with a shove that sent her stumbling backward. "Fine, take her side. You always did have eyes for her anyway." He turned to Wilkes. "Deal's off. Get your mangy horse off my property." Wilkes hesitated, looking between the three of them before spurring his horse and trotting away, muttering curses under his breath. Noah turned to Fiona. "Are you all right?" She nodded, rubbing her arm where her father's fingers had dug into her flesh. "Thank you." Her father stormed back toward the house. "Don't think this is over, girl. I need that money or something of value." After he slammed the door, Fiona finally exhaled. "I'm sorry you had to see that." Noah's expression softened. "Don't apologize for him. Has this happened before?" "Nothing quite like this," she admitted. "But he's been getting worse. Drinks away what little money we have, then blames me for our struggles." "You could leave," Noah suggested quietly. Fiona gazed at the small homestead that had been her prison and refuge. "And go where? With what money?" Noah hesitated. "I should check on you more often. I knew things were bad, but not this bad. I'll be fine, she assured him, though they both knew it wasn't true. As Noah mounted his horse, he looked back at her. If you need anything at all, my door is always open to you, Fiona. She watched him ride away, wondering if she would ever have the courage to take him up on his offer. The next morning, Fiona awoke to silence. Her father's bed was empty and his saddlebag was gone. Relief washed over her when he went on drinking binges in town. She usually had a few days of peace. She spent the morning tending to their meager garden and the few chickens that provided their eggs. By midday, she was startled by the approach of not one but several riders. Her father was at the front, looking more sober than she'd seen him in months. Behind him rode Mr. Wilkes and two other rough-looking men she didn't recognize. "Pack your things," her father announced without preamble as he dismounted. "You're going with Wilkes." Fiona froze. "Pa, you can't be serious. You can't sell a person." "I can and I have." He gestured to the men. "Got me that horse plus $15. He patted his pocket proudly. "Already spent 5 of it on a good bottle." "This is madness." Fiona backed toward the house. "I won't go." "You don't have a choice, girl." Wilkes dismounted, motioning to his companions. "We've got the papers right here. Your pa signed you over as an indentured servant, all nice and legal-like." "There's nothing legal about this." Fiona's voice rose in panic. "I'm a free woman," her father shrugged. "Should have made yourself useful around here. Maybe I wouldn't have had to resort to this." The men advanced, and Fiona knew she couldn't fight all of them. Tears burning her eyes, she retreated into the house, grabbing her mother's brooch, the only valuable thing she owned, and stuffing it into her pocket. "You have 5 minutes to pack," her father called after her. "Then they're taking you whether you're ready or not." Fiona threw her few belongings into a small bag, mind racing. Could she run? Where would she go? The nearest town was 15 miles away. Noah's ranch was closer, but these men would catch her before she made it halfway there. When she emerged, Wilkes gripped her arm. "Time to go, pretty thing. You'll be keeping my house now." The gleam in his eye suggested he had far more than housekeeping in mind. As they forced her onto a spare horse, Fiona caught one last glimpse of her childhood home and her father, already uncorking a fresh bottle of whiskey on the porch. "You'll thank me someday," he called out, though his eyes couldn't meet hers. "I got a good price for you." The party rode north, Fiona sandwiched between Wilkes and one of his men to prevent escape. She memorized landmarks, desperate to retain some sense of where they were taking her. After several hours, they stopped at a creek to water the horses. "Don't get any ideas," Wilkes warned as he roughly helped her dismount. "Nearest town's 2 days' ride, and the wilderness ain't kind to women alone." Fiona said nothing, conserving her energy and looking for any opportunity. When one didn't present itself, they continued riding until dusk, when they made camp in a small clearing. One of the men bound her hands loosely in front of her while they prepared a meager supper. Fiona sat apart, refusing food, watching the men drink and joke about their acquisition. "You'll warm up to me," Wilkes told her, his breath heavy with cheap liquor. "I ain't such a bad man when you get to know me." Fiona turned away, tears silently tracking down her face as night descended, bringing with it the howling of distant coyotes and the crushing weight of her new reality. Meanwhile, Noah Carter returned to the Blackwell homestead that evening, concern gnawing at him since the previous day's confrontation. Finding Jim Blackwell alone and drunk on the porch didn't surprise him. What did surprise him was the man's slurred confession. "Sold her. Got $15 and that horse." Jim pointed to a sorry-looking animal tethered nearby. "Good deal, I'd say." Noah's blood ran cold. "You did what?" "She's gone with Wilkes," Jim mumbled, taking another swig. "Signed the papers and everything." Noah grabbed the man by his shirt collar. "What papers? You can't sell a person," Jim waved dismissively. "Indentured servant contract, 7 years of service, all legal in these parts." Noah released him in disgust. "Where did they take her?" "Wilkes has a place up north, beyond Taylor Creek." Jim slumped back. "She'll be fine. Probably better off without me anyway." Noah fought the urge to strike the pathetic man before him. Instead, he mounted his horse and raced back to his ranch, mind churning with plans. He knew Wilkes by reputation, a small-time rancher with big ambitions and few scruples. If Fiona was with him, she was in danger far worse than merely being a servant. By dawn, Noah had packed provisions, his rifle and extra ammunition. He left instructions with his foreman to manage the ranch in his absence, then rode north, following the trail he suspected Wilkes would take. The journey was arduous, with only occasional signs that he was on the right track: a recently extinguished campfire, horseshoe prints heading north. By the second day, Noah's determination had only grown stronger. Fiona had always been special to him, though he'd never found the courage to tell her. Her quiet strength in caring for her father, despite his abuse, had impressed Noah for years. Now, the thought of her in Wilkes's clutches made his stomach turn. He rode harder, pushing his horse to its limits, praying he wasn't too late. Fiona spent her first night at Wilkes's cabin in terror. The ranch was little more than a ramshackle house with a small barn and corral. The interior was filthy, with unwashed dishes piled high and clothes strewn about. "Clean this place up," Wilkes had ordered upon arrival. "I want supper ready by sundown." She worked mechanically, scrubbing dishes and sweeping floors, buying time and looking for an opportunity to escape. The 2 men who had accompanied them from her father's homestead departed after collecting their payment, leaving her alone with Wilkes. That night, he had tried to force himself on her. Fiona had fought back with everything she had, scratching his face and kicking him hard enough that he backed off, cursing. "You'll learn your place," he'd snarled, locking her in a small storage room for the night. "I paid good money for you." Now, on her second day of captivity, Fiona worked in the yard, hanging laundry while Wilkes repaired a fence nearby, keeping a watchful eye on her. She had noticed his gun belt hanging inside the cabin and had begun formulating a desperate plan. As the sun began to set, she heard the distant sound of an approaching horse. Wilkes heard it too, reaching for the rifle that leaned against the fence post. "Get inside," he ordered Fiona, "and keep quiet." Heart pounding, she retreated to the cabin doorway but remained where she could see the approaching rider. As the figure came into view, recognition and hope surged through her. "Noah," Wilkes raised his rifle. "That's far enough, Carter. You're trespassing." Noah halted his horse, hands visible. "I've come for Fiona Blackwell. She ain't Blackwell anymore. She belongs to me. Got the papers to prove it." Wilkes kept the rifle trained on Noah. "No paper can make one person own another," Noah replied evenly. "I'm taking her home." Wilkes laughed. "You and what army? Just me." Noah dismounted slowly. "But I'm willing to make a deal, man to man." Fiona watched the exchange, heart in her throat. Noah had come for her. Despite everything, he had tracked them down. "What kind of deal?" Wilkes asked suspiciously. Noah reached into his saddlebag and pulled out a folded document. "This is the deed to my south pasture. 160 acres of prime grazing land with year-round water access. It's worth 50 times what you paid for Fiona." Wilkes lowered his rifle slightly. "You're offering land for the girl?" "I am." Noah's voice was steady. "The deed plus $50 cash. In exchange, you tear up whatever paper Jim Blackwell signed and let Fiona leave with me." Fiona couldn't believe what she was hearing. Noah was offering his prized south pasture land he had fought hard to acquire and develop for her freedom. Wilkes considered, greed evident in his expression. "Let me see that deed." Noah approached cautiously, handing over the document. Wilkes examined it, eyes widening at the official stamps and signatures. "Why would you give up good land for a woman?" Wilkes asked, suspicion in his tone. "That's my business," Noah replied. "Do we have a deal?" After a moment of consideration, Wilkes nodded. "Show me the money." Noah produced the cash, and Wilkes quickly counted it. With a last glance at Fiona, he went inside the cabin and returned with a crude document, which he tore in half before Noah's eyes. "She's all yours," Wilkes declared, pocketing the money and deed. "Though I can't say she's worth what you're paying. Girl's got a mean streak." Fiona rushed to Noah's side, trembling with relief and disbelief. He helped her onto his horse, mounting behind her. "You're a fool, Carter," Wilkes called after them as they rode away. "No woman's worth good land." Noah said nothing until they were well out of earshot. Then he pulled the horse to a stop and turned Fiona to face him. "Are you hurt? Did he touch you?" His eyes searched hers, filled with concern. "No, I'm all right," she assured him, though tears began streaming down her face. "You came for me. You gave up your land." Noah brushed a tear from her cheek. "Land can be replaced. You can't." They made camp that night by a small stream far enough from Wilkes's property to feel safe. Noah had packed enough provisions for both of them, and as they sat by the fire, Fiona finally allowed herself to relax slightly. "I can't believe my father did this," she said quietly, staring into the flames. "I knew he resented me, but to sell me like an animal." Noah's jaw tightened. "He'll answer for it. What he did wasn't legal, no matter what paper he signed." "Where will I go now?" Fiona asked. "I can't go back to him." "You'll stay with me," Noah said firmly. "I have a spare room. You'll be safe there until you decide what you want to do." Fiona looked up at him. "Why did you do this, Noah? That land was valuable to you." Noah was silent for a long moment. "I've watched you struggle for years, Fiona, taking care of your father despite how he treated you, working yourself to the bone on that failing homestead." He met her gaze. "I've admired your strength for a long time. I couldn't stand by while Wilkes took advantage of your father's weakness. But your land is just land," he finished for her. "I have enough to spare." Something in his voice made Fiona study him more closely. "There's more to it than that, isn't there?" Noah's expression softened. "Maybe there is." The journey back took 2 days. They traveled slowly, Noah unwilling to push his horse too hard with double the weight. During those days, they talked more than they had in all the years they'd been neighbors. Fiona learned about Noah's dreams for his ranch, how he'd come to the territory as a 17-year-old with nothing but determination, and had built his operation from scratch. Noah, in turn, discovered the depth of Fiona's resilience, how she had taught herself to read from her mother's few books, how she had dreamed of someday having enough money to open a small shop in town. "You could still do that," he told her as they made camp on the second night. "You're free to chart your own course now." Fiona smiled sadly. "With what money? I have nothing." "You have more than you know," Noah replied enigmatically. When they finally reached Noah's ranch, Fiona was struck by how different it was from both her father's homestead and Wilkes's squalid cabin. The main house was solid and well-maintained, with a broad porch and glass windows. Several outbuildings dotted the property, and healthy cattle grazed in the nearby fields. This was a place built with care and pride. Noah's foreman, an older man named Frank, greeted them with evident relief. "Glad to see you made it back, boss, and with the lady safe and sound." "Thanks for holding down the fort," Noah replied, helping Fiona dismount. "Any trouble while I was gone?" "Nothing we couldn't handle." Frank tipped his hat to Fiona. "Madam, there's a hot meal inside whenever you're ready. Mrs. Peterson came by and fixed up a room for you too." Noah led Fiona inside, where the aroma of beef stew made her realize how hungry she was after days of minimal food. The interior of the house was simple but comfortable, far nicer than anywhere she had lived before. "You must be exhausted," Noah said, pulling out a chair for her at the kitchen table. "Eat something, then get some rest. We can talk more tomorrow." That night, in a real bed with clean sheets, Fiona finally allowed herself to cry, not just for the ordeal she had endured, but for the years of hardship that had preceded it. Eventually, exhaustion claimed her, and she fell into the deepest sleep she'd had in years. The next morning, she awoke disoriented, momentarily forgetting where she was. The sunlight streaming through curtained windows and the distant sounds of ranch activity slowly brought reality back. She was safe. She was at Noah's ranch, after washing and dressing in the clothes Mrs. Peterson had left slightly too large but clean and whole. Fiona ventured downstairs. Noah was at the kitchen table examining ledgers. He looked up when she entered, a smile spreading across his face. "Good morning. You look rested." "I feel like I slept for days," she admitted. "Thank you for everything, Noah. I don't know how I'll ever repay you." "There's nothing to repay." He closed the ledger. "Are you hungry? There's coffee and biscuits." As they ate breakfast, Noah broached the subject they had both been avoiding. "I need to ride into town today to speak with the sheriff about what your father did. It's important we make an official report." Fiona nodded, though the thought of publicly discussing her ordeal made her stomach churn. "Will I have to go with you?" "Not today," Noah assured her. "Rest here. Get your bearings. There's plenty of time to sort things out." After Noah departed, Fiona explored the house, marveling at its simple elegance. It was a bachelor's home, to be sure, but well appointed and clean. In one room, she found a small library of books, more volumes than she had ever seen in one place outside of the town's tiny schoolhouse. She selected one and settled onto the porch, losing herself in the story until the afternoon sun began to wane. Noah returned as dusk was falling, his expression grim but determined. "The sheriff's going to pay your father a visit," he informed her. "What he did was illegal, even with that so-called contract. Wilkes, too, could face charges. What will happen to them?" Fiona asked, surprised to find she cared less than she expected. "Your father might spend some time in jail. Wilkes, too, possibly." Noah sat beside her on the porch steps. "The sheriff also gave me this." He handed her an envelope. Inside was an official-looking document. Fiona read it slowly, her eyes widening. "This says my father's homestead belongs to me now." Noah nodded. "Your mother's name was on the original land grant alongside your father's. When she died, her half should have gone to you. The sheriff's been looking into it since I told him what happened." Fiona stared at the paper in disbelief. "I own land." "You do." Noah's smile was gentle. "It's not much and it needs work, but it's yours." Tears filled Fiona's eyes. "I never thought I'd have anything of my own." "You deserve that and more," Noah said quietly. In the days that followed, Fiona found a rhythm at the ranch. She insisted on earning her keep, helping with cooking and mending clothes for the ranch hands. Noah protested that it wasn't necessary, but Fiona needed to feel useful, to know she wasn't just another charity case. A week after her rescue, Noah invited her to ride with him to inspect the property. They traveled first to the eastern pastures, where new calves frolicked alongside their mothers, then toward the south. "This is where the land was that you traded for me, isn't it?" Fiona asked as they crested a hill overlooking a verdant valley. Noah nodded. "Just beyond that line of trees." "I still can't believe you gave it up," she said softly. "It must have been valuable." "It was." Noah guided his horse closer to hers. "But some things are worth more than land, Fiona." The way he looked at her made her heart flutter. "What happens now? With me, I mean." Noah was quiet for a moment. "That depends on you. Your father's homestead is legally yours. You could return there, make it your own, or sell it and start fresh somewhere else." He paused. "Or you could stay here." "As your housekeeper?" Fiona asked, trying to keep her tone light despite the sudden tightness in her chest. "As whatever you want to be." Noah's eyes held hers. "Fiona, I've cared for you for a long time. I just never thought I had the right to say anything, with your situation being what it was." Fiona's breath caught. "And now I'm saying it." He reached across the space between their horses to take her hand. "I want you to stay, not as my housekeeper or as someone who owes me a debt, but because you want to be here with me." The sincerity in his eyes made her tremble. "I don't have anything to offer you, Noah. No dowry, no skills beyond keeping a poor homestead running." "You have everything I need," he replied simply. "Courage, kindness, strength that most men I know couldn't match." His thumb traced circles on her palm. "I'm not asking for an answer today. Take all the time you need." But Fiona didn't need time. In that moment, with the vast landscape spread before them and Noah's honest gaze upon her, she knew what she wanted. What she had perhaps wanted for years without allowing herself to acknowledge it. "I don't need time," she said, her voice steadier than she expected. "I want to stay, Noah, with you." The smile that lit his face was like sunrise breaking over the mountains. He dismounted and helped her down from her horse, pulling her gently into his arms. "I promise you won't regret it," he whispered before his lips found hers in a kiss that felt like coming home after a lifetime of wandering. 2 months later, they were married in the small church in town. Fiona wore a new dress of pale blue calico, and Noah looked handsome in a black suit that had been his father's. The sheriff attended, along with most of the neighboring ranchers and townspeople. Fiona's father did not attend. He had been sentenced to 6 months in the county jail for his actions, though Fiona had asked the judge for leniency. Wilkes had fled the territory upon learning of the investigation, abandoning the land deed in his haste, a document that Noah's lawyer later proved to be invalid due to the illegal nature of the transaction. After the simple ceremony, Noah surprised Fiona by taking her not back to the ranch but to her father's old homestead. "Why are we here?" she asked, confused at returning to a place filled with painful memories. Noah helped her down from the wagon. "I wanted to show you something." He led her around the back of the property to where a new structure stood, a small but sturdy workshop with large windows to let in natural light. "What is this?" Fiona asked, stepping inside to find a seamstress's table, shelves of fabric, and a brand-new sewing machine. "You told me once that you dreamed of making dresses," Noah reminded her. "That your mother taught you to sew, and you always wished you could do more with that skill." He gestured to the space. "This is yours, to use however you wish." Tears filled Fiona's eyes as she ran her fingers over the smooth wooden table. "You remembered that. I mentioned it just once months ago." "I remember everything you tell me," Noah said simply. He wrapped his arms around her from behind. "This land is still yours. We can let it lie fallow, or use it for grazing, or you can build your dressmaking business here. Whatever you decide." Fiona turned in his arms, overwhelmed by the gift he had given her, not just the workshop, but the freedom to choose her own path. "I love you," she whispered, the words still new and precious between them. Noah's kiss was gentle, reverent. "And I love you, always have, always will." As they rode back to their ranch, their home, Fiona looked out at the landscape that had once seemed so harsh and unforgiving. In the fading light of dusk, with Noah beside her and their future stretching before them, it looked different now. It looked like possibility, like hope, like love. 5 years later, the Carter Ranch had nearly doubled in size. Noah's careful management and forward-thinking approaches to cattle breeding had made them one of the most successful operations in the territory. But it wasn't just the ranch that had prospered. Fiona's dressmaking business had grown from a small workshop to a respected establishment with orders coming from as far away as Santa Fe. She had hired 2 assistants and was known for her exquisite workmanship and innovative designs that combined practicality with beauty. Their home had expanded too, with the addition of a nursery for their 3-year-old daughter, Sarah, named after Fiona's mother, and their 1-year-old son, James. The sound of children's laughter filled the once quiet ranch house, a joyous counterpoint to the rhythms of ranch life. On the anniversary of the day Noah had brought Fiona back from Wilkes's cabin, they always took a private moment to reflect on how far they had come. This year, they rode together to the south pasture land that Noah had eventually repurchased at a premium price from a neighboring rancher. "Do you ever regret it?" Fiona asked as they gazed out over the land that had once been the price of her freedom. "Giving up all this for me?" Noah's arm tightened around her waist, not for a single moment. He turned her to face him. "I would give it up again in a heartbeat." Fiona smiled, touching his face with a tenderness born of years of deepening love. "I'm glad you don't have to. Everything I have, this land, our home, our children, none of it would mean anything without you." Noah kissed her softly. "You're the heart of it all, Fiona." As they rode back to the ranch, where their children waited under the watchful eye of Mrs. Peterson, now their full-time housekeeper, Fiona reflected on the strange twist of fate that had brought them together. Her father's desperate, cruel act had ultimately led her to the happiness she had never dared to dream of. Jim Blackwell had been released from jail years ago and had drifted west, occasionally sending letters that Fiona answered with polite detachment. She had forgiven him, not for his sake but for her own, refusing to let bitterness shadow the joy she had found. As they approached the ranch house, they could see Sarah running toward them, her dark curls bouncing in the sunlight, James toddling behind her with Mrs. Peterson following closely. Noah dismounted quickly, lifting Sarah high into the air as she squealed with delight. Fiona gathered James into her arms, his chubby hands patting her cheeks in greeting. "Welcome home, Mama," Sarah said, now perched on her father's shoulders. Home. The word still filled Fiona with wonder. From a girl with nothing, sold by her own father for a horse, to a woman with everything she could ever want: a loving husband, beautiful children, land of her own, and work that fulfilled her. That night, after the children were asleep, Noah and Fiona sat on their porch, watching the stars emerge in the vast New Mexico sky. His arm was around her shoulders, her head resting against him, the comfortable silence of 2 people who knew each other's hearts. "Thank you," Fiona said quietly. Noah looked down at her. "For what?" "For seeing value in me when no one else did, for giving up everything to bring me back." He kissed the top of her head. "I didn't give up everything, Fiona. I found everything." And as the night deepened around their homestead, Fiona knew with absolute certainty that she had found everything to a love as vast as the western sky and as enduring as the land beneath their feet.